Hello and welcome to the Homeowner Show, your popular program on Sundays, where we talk about everything real estate and how to find a roof over your head and some of the problems that we encounter as individuals in the process of trying to get that which is so important to us. Well, it's time again for us to have a discussion this afternoon in the studio, and as usual, I'm very happy to be your host for the next 1 hour or so. We'll be discussing what we have on the plate this afternoon. But we're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to introduce you to our guests, and then we'll just highlight what we have to discuss this afternoon. And then, as usual, you're going to get your questions and your contributions ready. You can send them through when it is time via WhatsApp and hopefully through phone calls. So we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back from the break, and you're watching the Homeowners Show this Sunday afternoon on Metro TV Live. The Homeowners Show is proudly brought to you by First National Bank Ghana and supported by CBC Properties. Now, you're a homeowner who requires financial assistance to meet other pressing needs. Well, First National Bank can help you unlock the value in your house by releasing equity in your property to finance your business, fund your child's education abroad, or any other need. Speak to First National Bank's experienced team of home loan consultants today to discover more help. You can call us on 0242 435 050 or 0800 770 522 to get started. First National Bank, how can we help you? Now, why do you have to buy a piece of land now? Well, as Anthony Trollope puts it, and I quote, because land provides the highest returns, the greatest values, the least risks, and of course, it is the only thing that cannot fly away. Now is the best time to own a land in Oyarifa, Pram, East Legon Hills, Adenta, Manfro, Shire Hills, Aiments, and so on. Call CBC Properties to schedule for a free site visit on 0303 935 313 or 0262 898 686. Check them on their website at www.cbcghanalimited.com. Follow CBC Properties on social media at CBC Ghana Limited on Facebook and Twitter, and at CBC Ghana on IG, at CBC Ghana, at CBC Properties on YouTube. You can also find them there. Well, the Homeowner Show is also proudly supported by Major Enterprise. If it's not quality, it's not Major. Sub-Saharan fashion, great shirts reserved for men with integrity. Business and Financial Times, Ghana's most authoritative business news source, and Construction TV Online, all the news from the building construction industry. So this afternoon, we are set to roll, and we are talking about the equity release, whether it's a good idea or whether it's safe for the prospective homeowner. And to help us discuss this, the merits and demerits of this particular issue or product, is a business development consultant with the First National Bank Ghana Limited, and she's in the person of Elizabeth Ashie. Elizabeth is going to join us via Zoom for our conversation this afternoon, and we will try and exhaust as much as possible as we have on our plate. So if you can hear me loud and clear, Elizabeth, you're welcome to the Homeowners Show. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. I can see you, and I'm sure you can see me too, but I don't know whether you can hear me. If you can hear me, I would like to know if you can hear me loud and clear.
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me now?
Great, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you do well this beautiful Sunday afternoon.
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing great, and we are glad to have you here on the show for the very first time.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Fantastic. So first of all, I mean, especially for viewers who are hearing of this for the first time, help us understand what equity release as a product is, defined by the First National Bank.
Okay, so good afternoon to all viewers, and I'm pleased to be on this show. So equity release falls under the bank's homeowner loans, which is so it's a product where you are able to use your existing property to secure funds, or let me say to unlock some value from your existing property for some reasons approved by the bank, such as paying your wards, tuition fees, buying another property, using it to expand your property, using it to expand your business, importing your goods into the country, whatever. But the reasons must be approved by the bank. So that is what the equity release is all about.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Now, so what happens if me as a customer walks to you at First National Bank seeking equity release? Can you help us understand what happens? I mean, the processes, the scenario, if one has to wants a product like this from your outfit.
Okay, so anyone that walks into the bank to inquire about the equity release product should have some demonstrable source of income. So we are looking at either self-employed, so we are looking at consultants, we are looking at salaried workers, provided you have a home or a collateral that is not encumbered. We're going to take you through the process, but first off, we do an illustration for you, and then we let you know how much you may qualify for or how much you may be able to release from your property over a period of time. We let you know how much, as in the equity and the property that the bank is willing to give to you, and then the tenor, how much you'll be paying, your debt to income ratio. We spell out all those things to you before we dive into the documents that you have to submit to the bank to be processed for the facility.
Okay. Could you help us probably name or outline specific documents that one may need to have if I'm coming to source for a product like this for the very first time?
Okay, so the main thing we are looking at here is your property. So one, it shouldn't be encumbered. So we are looking at a land title certificate or a registered indenture. Not just an indenture, but a registered indenture. That is the most important in the assessment of this product. And then you give us an evidence of whatever you're going to use the funds for. So in that, we are looking at, if you're using it to settle your wards, tuition fees, then you're going to give us a copy of the bill. If it's going to be used for medical bills as well, you give us an evidence of that. If it's going to be used for importing items, or let me say your stock into the country, you give us an invoice. If you're going to use it to improve on your property, you give us an invoice as well from your service providers. If that's going to, it's also going to be used for a purchase of another property, you give us an offer letter. That is just to start with. And then we delve into the basic, or let me say the standard documents that we request for. You complete the application form by First National Bank. And then you also give us a copy of your photo ID, preferably your Ghana card as it stands now. And then we'll also take your utility bill. If you're a salaried worker, we are taking 3 most recent months bank statements with its corresponding pay slips. And then you give us pictures of the property in its current state. If it happens that you're self-employed or a consultant, you give us your business registration document, your business bank statement, your personal bank statements. That's if you operate a separate account from your business. That's mostly for sole proprietors. And these are just the basics to start with. And then pictures of the property in its current state. So that is what, those are just the basic requirements. Equity release is not just narrowed or let me say limited to Ghanaians or let me say resident applicants. We have, it's also open to non-resident applicants. So Ghanaians living in the diaspora that have properties here and are looking to release equity from the same property, probably to do something here in the country, but not outside. So with that, they also support with all the documents that I've mentioned, plus credit reports, either from Experian, from Equifax, or some other approved source that the bank takes their credit reports from.
So this presupposes that I do not necessarily have to be a customer of First National Bank Ghana to qualify for this product, right?
Not necessarily, but we'll be glad to have you on board, provided we are giving you such an opportunity to release cash from your home. We'll be glad to have you as a customer. So as part of the policy, once you are taking a mortgage facility from us, you'll be required to open an account, probably to. So it's a win-win situation. It's not just looking at one side. So we are looking at, definitely you have to open an account with the bank. You have to service an account with the bank, but not necessarily being a customer of the bank before we give you an equity release facility.
All right. So mind you, what we're talking about this afternoon is whether this particular product, is it a good idea or is it safe? And of course, for any prospective customer, these are things that you'd want to consider. Can you help us really go through the pros and cons really of this particular product?
Okay, so to everything, there's an advantage and there's a disadvantage. So I'll say, let me start with the disadvantages. If you're using your property as the collateral, and then it happens that you just relax, you're like, okay, I have funds, or I've used the funds for what I meant for, and then you refuse to settle your monthly repayments, then that means you are putting yourself at risk, you are putting your family at risk of losing the property in the long term. It doesn't just happen overnight. So that is one of their disadvantages. And then if you're looking at another disadvantage, you can't take an equity release facility maybe just to throw a party or to go on a vacation. You should use equity release for something that you're going to benefit from, is going to appreciate in the long-term value or in the long-term run. So those are, let me say, some of the disadvantages of taking an equity release. If I should delve into the advantages of taking an equity release or a homeowner's mortgage, we are looking at, one, you have your property already, and then you have some funds readily available to you to settle off either a ward's tuition, or you can use it as a deposit towards the purchase of another property. Mind you, if you're doing a home purchase, the bank is going to request or require an evidence of your minimum deposit to the vendor or whoever you are buying from. But for equity release, if you're going to use it to buy another property, the bank is not going to request for an evidence of that payment, because your property is the collateral. So you have cash at hand readily available to you. And then as well, I forgot to add one. You're not going to get, for the disadvantage, you're not going to get the full amount or the full value of your property. The bank is giving you a cap. So you have up to 70% the value of your property, but that is also going to be tied to your income. You're not just doing collateral-based lending. So we are looking at your income per the value of the property as well. So those are just a few of the pros and the cons of equity release.
For you as a bank or product provider, are you able to track or see through what the customer really uses the equity for? I mean, this particular thing could be? What happens, or what are the consequences for someone who probably applies for this, gets the funds, and diverts it or uses it for something else? Because in the cons or the disadvantages you mentioned, you give an example where somebody probably might want to use a facility like that for, let's say, a huge party or for something frivolous, for that matter.
Okay, so what I'll say is, if previously the bank used to monitor what the funds were going to be used for. So if you say you're going to use it to buy another property, we'll either disburse or release the funds to the owner of the property. If you're going to use it for your business, maybe importing goods into the country, then we're going to pay your service providers. But for now, we have given you that flexibility or that trust that once you said, this is what I'm using the funds for, it should go into that. The moment you divert funds, you put yourself at risk. That is one. The first thing. The moment you divert the funds, then you're not going to have a safe ride, or let me say a smooth journey in the mortgage tenor. In that, if the funds are diverted, if the bank finds out later, the funds have already been disbursed to you. That is it. But how are you going to recoup whatever you're going to use the funds for?
Exactly. I mean, that's a good question. But for you as a service provider, what are some of the red flags that you really look out for, I mean, going through this process with a customer?
So we look out for one. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we have facilities for non-residents, the equity release. Some of the red flags we look out for: if the person is non-resident, how long has the person been away that the person wants to release equity? Because there's been a scenario whereby the applicant took the facility and then he or she vanished because we had maximized, or they had maximized how much they could take on the property. So invariably, the property was left or sold to the bank. So looking out for some of the red flags, we're looking at your credit history, how long you've been. So mostly we look at your primary residence. If it's not your primary residence, it's also sort of a red flag, because why are you going to release an equity from a property that you're not living in? If you're bringing a property that you love so much, or let me say your primary residence, your family property, why would you let it go into bad debt? Why will you default on such a property? So we're looking at why your primary residence. We're looking at your credit history. We are looking at your business or your income details and all that. We factor all that in. For, like I mentioned, credit reports. We have, for Ghanaians, we have, or let me say resident applicants, we have a data bureau where we get to check your history. So your servicing records with other banks, if there has been over the past few years. If you've sold yourself, sorry to say, if you sold yourself over there, then you are a high risk client to start with. And then if it's good to go, we are looking at your income as well. If your income is not going to match how much you're requesting for, then as well, it's not so much of a red flag, but the bank is not going to give you how much you want to borrow on that property.
Can I still take out an equity release plan if I have, say, an outstanding mortgage?
Yes, you can. So we do have clients that take a mortgage facility, or let me say they remortgage the property. Assuming you have a property, mind you, I made mention that what the bank will give you up to 70% the value of your property. So if you have an outstanding balance, assuming this is just an assumption, you have your property is worth 100,000, and then you have an outstanding balance with the bank of 40,000. Then you have a room of 30,000 more to borrow. provided your income can match how much you'll be paying, or once you consolidate the amount that is going to be released to you. So existing clients mostly qualify for equity release facilities if their income is enough to support. And then let me just chip in this. If you, for instance, you borrowed just a loan years ago, and then now you have, let me say, a partner or a spouse, and then you want to remortgage or you want to take an equity release on the existing facility, you can join with a spouse who is also going to support with the income to cushion you to borrow up to the 70% the value of the property. So yes, existing clients do qualify for equity release.
Okay. So help me here. If I decide to release equity today, how much would it cost me?
Okay. So there's nothing like free. And we have the application fee, and then you have your registration deposits, and then you have your property insurance, which you have to pay. These are just percentages of the entire facility. So the application fee is going to be 1.25% the value of your property. And then the registration deposits, it differs. So the registration deposit is either going to be 1.85% the value of your property, and or 1%. 1% for individuals or clients that have registered certificates, and then 1.85% for those who have only a registered indenture. And then we have the property insurance, which is 0.15% the value of the property.
Okay. Okay. How old, I'm just curious, how old is this product? And as with any business, I mean, you're bound to have some sour moments. Have you had any bad experiences with customers or prospective customers? So first of all, how old is this product? And then
equity release has been with the bank. So First National Bank, previously, let me say, Ghana Home Loans, or GHL Bank. The product has been in existence since 2006. So it's been 16 years and running. And there's always a bad nut somewhere. So we do have clients that do default, or they, like I mentioned, they will just walk into the bank, they release equity on their property, and they dump the property, quote and unquote, to the bank. So they just leave without servicing the facility, because they have maximized how much they wanted to take on the property.
So if a customer is unable to fully service the product or service a loan like that, what happens? I mean, if there's some default or some defaulting along the line, what happens in the process?
Okay, so default does not happen overnight, because it's a process. Your first month, you are delinquent. Your second month, you're delinquent. Your third month, and then once you enter into the fourth month without paying, then you will have finally defaulted on the property. In as much as we are in for business, we are not carved in stone. There's a human face. So if you're not able to meet up or catch up with your monthly repayments, there's the option for you. You can speak to whoever is assigned to you, the consultants that is assigned to you. You can request for either a payment holiday, you can request for a restructure, where we are willing to, but we'll have to investigate as to why. For instance, you lose your job, and then you're not able to meet up because of family obligations and all that. You can walk into the bank. If there's an evidence, we send it to our committee to approve, and then probably we give you a payment holiday of up to 6 months, whereby your account is put on hold, and then we'll be able to resuscitate the account after the 6 months, because we believe probably 6 months you have some time. In as much as that, if you're not also able to meet up with the same amounts that you are paying, for instance, you are earning 1,000 cedis. And then you are able, your monthly repayment is 400 because your debt to income ratio is 40%. And then you lose your job and you find another job where you are being paid 800. You walk to the bank, we can do a restructure for you, irrespective of the tenor that you have traveled. So we can do a restructure for you to suit how much you may be able to pay for the time that is left. For instance, if you took a 15-year tenor and then you want us to spread it to a 20-year tenor, we are willing to do that for you, but we'll do a restructure just that it will suit how much you'll be able to pay so that your exposure wouldn't be too much or your commitment wouldn't be too high for you. So the bank is also ready to assist clients who are not able to meet up with their monthly repayments.
Okay. Would you advise a customer who is probably not very conversant with the technicalities of the whole process or probably not fully literate, is it advisable for somebody like that to probably enlist the help of, say, a lawyer? Do you think it's necessary, or the bank can just play that role and help such a person throughout?
Okay, so it's going to be a conflict of interest if the bank is going to play the same role. But before we take you through the process, once your facility is approved, for instance, if you have someone that is not so much of a literate, we take you through the process. We give you a draft of the mortgage agreement. You send it. You have the option to share it with your legal team. You have the option to share it with somebody who is able to take you through. But before we release the funds to you as well, the bank will take you through this. There's a team that is assigned to take you through the mortgage agreement before whatever you have to do, the do's and the don'ts and all that. We take you through all that. So you're not just left behind. The bank is willing to assist you, but they're not going to take that first job. But you have the option to take a legal team, or you can show it to your lawyer. And then if you want some amendments, which is doable to the bank, then we can also do that for you.
All right, great conversation so far, Elizabeth. Ashe, kindly hold on for me. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation. And for you viewers out there, we've been speaking to a business development analyst with the First National Bank Ghana, Elizabeth Ashe. She has been speaking to us via Zoom, and we've been discussing equity release, a product of the First National Bank Ghana, home loans. And I'm sure that you are getting your questions ready. Well, the Homeowners Show is brought to you every Sunday proudly by the First National Bank Ghana. First National Bank, how can we help you? And also supported by CBC Properties, the home of affordable and litigation-free lands and properties. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be right back to continue with the conversation. Welcome back from the break. You're watching the Homeowners Show right here on Metro TV. The Homeowners Show is proudly brought to you by First National Bank Ghana. First National Bank, how can we help you? And supported by CBC Properties Limited, the home of your affordable and litigation-free lands and properties. Now, Majel Enterprise is the pioneer in innovative building and construction materials with over 20 years of experience in Ghana. We supply notable brands like Era, George Fisher Hakan Plastics, Peace and Ferrat Plastic, EMS Force, Interplast, Bosch, Power Tools, Leo Pumps, and many more. Now, Majel is also the sole distributor of cast products in Ghana. You can call Majel Enterprise for all your hardware supplies on 0207-672-965 or 0540573421. Find them on social media at Majel Enterprise. You can locate Majel Enterprise at Spintex, Ecobank, at Dogono Road, opposite the Shell station. Majel Enterprise, if it's not quality, it's not Majo. Now, great shirts are worn by great men with integrity. That's the philosophy behind Sub-Saharan Fashion brand. At Sub-Saharan Fashion, our choice of fabric is inspired by our culture and heritage. The temperament of our clients contributes to the choice of fabric and colors to use. At the end, we create an art piece which is custom made for one person only. If you want to patronize the brand reserved for men with integrity, call or WhatsApp Sami on 0264017512 for your orders, and find them on social media at Sub-Saharan Fashion. Now, this afternoon, we'll be talking about equity release, whether it's a good idea or whether it's safe for the prospective client or customer, a product of the First National Bank Ghana. And joining us on Zoom, and for the past 30 minutes or so, we have been talking to Elizabeth Ashie, Business Development Analyst at First National Bank Ghana. And we've been having some really interesting conversation this afternoon. So we want to continue with our conversation, Elizabeth. From where you sit at FNBG, is this product a well-patronized product, or is this something that you have a lot of people coming in for or opting for?
I'll say yes. Looking at the most sold or most taking facility, which is the first time buy or home purchase. Apart from home purchase and home construction, the next in line is equity release, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs in the business in the country, and then we have people who want to release equity from their homes for other things. So apart from the first two that I mentioned, equity release is one of the patronized products of the bank.
Okay. Well, now I'm just curious. Just wanted to find out whether this plan is regulated, because I know that in other jurisdictions there are even councils, kind of a council that oversees the operations of such. So I'd want to find out from you whether this thing is regulated of some sort, or is operating in a regulated environment, so to speak.
I'll say yes, it's regulated by BOG. So one, we are looking at the collateral. The second is your source of repayment, which is your income. So we are looking if we are assessing you, we have the limit of up to 40% to use as your monthly repayment. So if you walk into the bank and then your income is just around 1,000, and you have other obligations where you are servicing up to 200 out of your 1,000, we can only take an additional of the 40%. We can't go beyond a consolidated of 60% per the policy and the regulation. So we are looking at, one, your property should be in a good condition, not just bringing us any property that as a collateral. So that is also regulated. We are looking at the property that you are bringing to us, and then your income as well. For self-employed, we are looking at not just your business over a year, but we are going to give you the option or the credibility of 3 years to assess you. So we are looking at all that. If we give you just a year to do an assessment, then we wouldn't be fair to you. Let me just chip in with this. If, for instance, somebody walks in last year, a business person walked in last year to do an assessment or to take an equity release, we all know what happened in 2020 and is still there, which is COVID. We are going to assess you just on what you did for the previous year. We wouldn't be fair to you. So we are looking at the income over the past 3 years. We are looking at if you are self-employed and a salaried worker. We're also going to look at your pay slips, your income, which you've been making over the salary you've been paid, if you have other bonuses, if you have allowances, if you have what have you, other sources of income. We are looking at all that. So that is also being regulated, and then we consider all that as income before we release the equity to you. Mind you, like I mentioned earlier, we're not just doing collateral-based lending, so we are tying it to your income as well. So yes, equity release is being regulated, one by the Bank of Ghana, and then we also have a regulation body.
Okay. Well, I know you touched on it a bit when you were talking about some of the disadvantages. You know, earlier we were talking about the pros and cons. You touched on it briefly, but let me ask you this again. Can, say, my family end up in debt because of equity release? Or in other words, can releasing equity affect my family by such a decision?
Okay, so releasing equity, there's a possibility. There is the possibility where your family can be affected. So one, let me just take it from the far adverse. If it happens that you lose your life or you are no more, and then I mentioned earlier that as part of the costs, you have to take your property insurance, and then you pass on without your insurance being up to date, your family is going to be in debt. Why? Because you're going to carry that liability of servicing the mortgage till it retires. But if you are still on cover, you have your insurance covered, then your family gets to enjoy the property because the insurance company gets to pay off your outstanding mortgage balance for you. And then your family gets to enjoy the property. If it happens that you take the facility without paying, without doing anything on the property, then you put your family at risk. You might end up losing the property in the long run. It doesn't just happen overnight, like I mentioned earlier. You might put your family at risk. So whatever you're doing, you should consider, if you have your family at heart, you should consider your family and then service your mortgage regularly. I mentioned also that if you're not able to meet up with your monthly repayments, you can walk into the bank, either request for a restructure or a payment holiday, and then the bank is willing to, provided that per our investigation or per what you submit to us is approved by our committee, then we are good to go. But if you just sit back, relax, and say, I'm not going to make payments, I'm not going to service my mortgage, then you put your family at risk of losing your property.
All right. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Well, for viewers out there, the phone lines are open, and you can also send in your questions via WhatsApp or contributions. Anything that you want our guest who has been joining in the conversation via Zoom to answer, we would want you to send it through. So WhatsApp is ready. You can send your questions through and we'll be glad to let her answer. So take advantage. We have a few more minutes before we wrap up the conversation. Now, Elizabeth, let me find out what's the success rate like as far as First National Bank Ghana is concerned when it comes to advising customers or clients to take the equity release plan?
I'll say the rate is high because, one, before you take an equity release or before you get a client that is willing to release equity from their property, their mind is already made up before they walk into the bank. If not, and then let me say it's a bit shaky, then we give you that comfort. One, if you're working in with just a registered indenture, the bank is going to put in their best effort basis to ensure that before you retire your facility, you walk away with a land title certificate. That is on a best effort basis. So we are going to do that for you. So considering the due diligence we are going to run on the property and all that, we give you that assurance. So the possibility of taking the equity release or the success rate, I'll say, is very high, because if you look at, like I mentioned earlier, if you take the purchase and then the construction, equity release is next.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, we've had one or two questions coming through. Let me just filter through and see whether I can get you to answer one or two. Elizabeth. Well, I see one here. It says, I want to find out from Elizabeth whether in the restructuring of a loan, you have to pay for processing fee, insurance, and commitment fee. I'm not too sure about this, but does that ring any bell?
Okay, so for restructure, we are doing a restructure for you. There's no processing fee. And then for insurance is renewed annually. You have the property insurance and then you have the life insurance. For life insurance, it's not mandatory, but if you do life insurance, it's going to benefit you, the applicant, or let me say the client, and then your family. Because if anything happens to you, permanent disability or death or any other thing, the insurance company will be willing to take it up for you. But insurance is renewed annually, irrespective of the tenure of the facility. You just have to ensure that you are on cover. Should anything happen to the property, your property will be reinstated for you. That is if your property insurance is still on cover. And then if anything happens to you and your life insurance is still on cover, you are still on cover, your insurance company gets to pay off the outstanding mortgage balance, and then your family will get to enjoy the property. So for restructure, there's no payment, but there's the insurance. We ensure that insurance is paid annually.
Okay, brilliant. All right, so another viewer says, good afternoon, Michael. My name is Maya from Hacho. I'm an informal employer, an employer in the informal space. Well, I'm qualified to opt for this product with my 2-bedroom house. I need funds to inject into my business this Christmas. So Maya is saying that she believes that she qualifies for this particular product. What would you have to say to her? She says she needs funds to inject into her business this Christmas, and she has a 2-bedroom house that she can use for this product. What do you have to say to her, Elizabeth?
Okay, so I wish she threw a little light on the informal sector, which she's saying, because we do have facilities or there is open to self-employed. So if your business is well structured, you have good record keeping, then we can be able to lend to you. But if you don't keep records, then it'll be difficult to lend to you, because what's going to be the basis of assessment? How are we going to assess you? If you don't have a well-structured record keeping, then it'll be difficult to assess you. But if you do have records, you keep records regularly, then you can submit that to the bank. We do an assessment, and then we can be able to give you the funds that you want to inject into your business.
Okay, fantastic. Maya, I hope that answers your question. But I think we have our first call on the line this afternoon. Philip from Kade, I believe. Hello, Philip.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the Homeowners Show. What question do you have this afternoon?
Okay, my question is about the construction. So, assuming that, for example, I'm in Kede and my property is in Kumasi, can I come for a loan in support of the construction of my building in Kumasi? But I don't know how the verification can be done because I'm much closer to my property.
You have a project in Kumasi and you are based in Kade, but then you need some funds to work or finish this particular project that you're talking about in Kumasi. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Elizabeth, how do you help somebody like this?
Okay, so Philip, if you do have a demonstrable source of income, so if you're self-employed or you're a salaried worker, if you're a salaried worker, definitely will take you on. If you're self-employed as well, we are ready to take you on. But the construction is a bit different from the equity release. So for construction, you have to give us your building permit and a copy of your bill of quantities, which has to be prepared by a quantity surveyor. You give us your architectural design as well, and then a copy of your land documents. For Kumasi, I know it's mostly allocation notes or the documents which you have which shows that you are the right owner of the land. And then we'll be able to give you a home construction mortgage.
All right, Philip, I'm sure that this helps, but in the event that you need any help, you can always call First National Bank, and then they would be glad to answer your questions. I did not get the name very well for this viewer from Sacramento. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I get your name again?
My name is Charles.
Charles, thank you very much. All right, Charles, please go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, okay. The show is very nice, and then I would like to ask a simple question. I'm also into the building and construction. Yeah. So I would like to know if they do give subcontracts.
Can you go over your question again? I didn't get that.
I would like to know if the company, the home owners association, they do give a subcontract, like their buildings that they used to build, they used to give a subcontract. Can I get their contact so that?
I'm sorry, but your question it just keeps truncating. But I don't know. I couldn't get a full drift of the question. So probably maybe you can call in again, and then we'll see how best we can answer that question. All right. Okay. Oh. All right. Well, this viewer is not asking a question. Well, he says that, well, I like your shirt. Well, you Sub-Saharan Fashion can get this done for you, so you can get in touch with them. Sami, you can call or WhatsApp them as we give you the number. And great show. I have never heard of this before, but you've learned a lot. Well, thanks that you are learning a lot from this program, and we hope that you tune in many more times when you come your way. Well, we have a few more minutes, just like 2 minutes to wrap up. And so if you have any question, any contribution, you can just do that before we draw down the curtain on today's program. But you're watching the Home Owners Show, proudly brought to you by First National Bank Ghana. First National Bank, how can we help you? And supported by CBC Properties Limited, the home of your affordable and litigation-free lands and properties. Magil Enterprise, where you can get all your hardware that you're looking for. If it's not quality, it's not Magil. And Sub-Saharan Fashion, like our viewer out there who likes this shirt, well, if you want any, you can get in touch with Sub-Saharan Fashion. Great shirts reserved for men with integrity. Business and Financial Times, Ghana's most authoritative business news source, and Construction TV Online, all the news from the building and construction industry. Well, Elizabeth, we're just about getting out of the studio. I'll just want to find out from you what your final words are before we end this conversation.
Okay, so I'd just like to say thank you for having me on the show. And then to the viewers, if there's any time to take equity release, this is the best time. You can use your property as the collateral to release funds to buy a different property or to release funds to build. And this is the best time. You can use it to lock up prices to buy in bulk. Also, we are running the Build Up campaign, which also the equity release falls under one of the products which we are offering, and you get to enjoy a discount of up to 1.5% on your interest rates that we are offering as of now. So if you want to take an equity release, this is the best time you can take an equity release. Don't be afraid. You can walk into the bank, any of the branches, speak to our mortgage consultants, and they are readily available to assist you.
Fantastic. Well, I said we've wrapped up, but one viewer just sent this in quickly, so let's just look at this before you go. It says I should ask you whether a client outside your operational zone in Ghana can also apply. For instance, a client in Doma Hinkro or of the Bono region, and if yes, where they can start from. I don't know whether you get the question.
Okay, provided he or she has a land title certificate or a registered indenture, then we are good to go. But if you don't have any of those documents at all, we do have a lot of people that do say I own properties, but they don't have documents to prove or to evidence that they are the rightful owners of the land. So from our viewer or whoever sent in the question, if you do have a document to prove that you are the owner of the property, then we will be willing to go ahead. We do our due diligence and ensure that your property is not encumbered, and then we'll be willing to lend to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. It's been a pleasure talking to you this afternoon on the Homeowner Show. We hope that we'll get the opportunity to speak to you again on some other aspects of this particular issue. But thank you very much, and I wish you a very brilliant week.
Thank you to Michael.
All right. So we've been speaking to Elizabeth Ashie, Business Development Analyst with FNBG, and we've been talking about equity release, a product of the First National Bank Ghana, and as to whether it's a good idea or it is something that is safe or it's something that customers out there can go for. We looked at the pros and cons of this particular product, and I'm sure that you've had your fill this afternoon. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure as usual coming your way, and we hope to come your way again next weekend for another edition of the Homeowner Show. Until then, have a brilliant and a wonderful week. Bye for now.